Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Welcome back to the Domtrap. I know it's been a while. It's been a very long time. I apologize for the hiatus. Um, like I always say, life is life and things are happening in the background. And I appreciate each and every last one of you that have been waiting for the episodes, that have been asking where they are, that have been checking in, and even those of you that are low-key been pestering me. But I'll let it slide. I'll let it slide. So thank you. Welcome back and welcome to for the new listeners. The work folks, Ricky, I appreciate all of y'all for tuning in and checking me out. So yeah, things have been good though. I don't really have much at all to complain about, and it's weird because I feel like I don't know. I don't want to say that there's always something to complain about or there's something that always has to be wrong, but I mean the past several years have just been like I don't want to say rough, but they've been odd, you know. So when things look up, great things start happening. I always get confused. Like, okay, where's the bad part? You know, when is the bad thing gonna happen? And it just hasn't happened. So I'm still just in an adjustment period with things on the back end, my job and everything. But yeah, once again, I appreciate each and every last one of you for listening, checking in, especially on the TikToks. Man, y'all are showing love. Even with the YouTube shorts, I appreciate all the support. I really do. I would love to eventually get back to the point where I can stream on Twitch again. So we'll see how everything goes. I'm just gonna take everything one step at a time. We'll just see how this all goes. But I do have some reviews for you today, just to get back into the swing of things. It's gonna be rusty. I haven't written any notes for this. This was just kind of spur of the moment. My buddy Lex texted me. He was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "You know what? I gotta record. I have to record for my people." So I guess I'll go ahead and get the shout outs out the way. Like I said, shout out to all the work folks that are checking in. Shout out to Lex. Shout out to Hiley, bro. It's been a while, Hiley, bro. We got a collab. I'm sorry. It's been a while. Lex, we got a collab. Shout out to Lynn over at the Bros Who Think Network. Thank you for having me on so much as a co-host on the Run It Back episode. So if y'all haven't already, go to the Bros Who Think Network. You can find that really anywhere. But if you want to find our episodes on Run It Back, they'll be on YouTube. So just look up Bros Who Think Running Back and you'll see our episodes, especially the more recent ones. We do have another episode coming soon, so be on the lookout for that. So that's pretty exciting. We're going to be doing a review of 21 Jump Street, which is a movie that I love. And what's funny is the way that it works is we basically put some movies into a wheel. We spin the wheel, whatever movie the wheel lands on, we review that film. So I picked 21 Jump Street, and that's what we're going to do. The last one that we did was The Matrix. We've also done Wanted and Jackie Brown. So go and check those reviews out. Those are always great. I don't know what I don't know what that was. I'm sorry. Hang on. Sorry. Yo, I didn't know this was a thing. I'm sorry. This is news to me. I apologize. If you're listening to this, you're missing out on the audio experience of whatever this is. I don't know. Hang on, can I do it again? But yeah, I just had like a thumbs up and fireworks behind me, so that's actually pretty cool. So fun stuff, surprisingly. But yeah, I just want to start off with a few reviews, just like I said, to get back into the swing of things. Hopefully I can make this thing a more weekly, or like I said previously, a bi-weekly occurrence. So we'll see how this goes. But I do want to give a review of, man, one of my favorite movies that I've seen this year so far. I didn't have a lot of stock going into this one. I love the franchise. Don't get me wrong. I love the MonsterVerse franchise. Let me go ahead and start with that. This is a MonsterVerse movie. I have yet to see the Monarch TV show that's on Apple TV, but I saw this trailer for the first time, and that really got the juices flowing. I said, okay, give me giant gorilla, give me giant angry lizard that's always angry at everything. This is still coming off of, I'm still on the Godzilla -1 high. So kaiju films, I'm all about right now. So of course I was leaning towards this one, you know, being a good movie, but I was still reserved because of the way that the MonsterVerse has been going so far. But man, Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, Godzilla Kong, the Empire, whatever, however you want to name it. I think they said the X is silent, so it's Godzilla Kong, the New Empire. But this movie is just great. It's great all around. I got what I wanted personally, and I just wanted to see two monsters destroy a city, and fight each other. That's what a MonsterVerse movie would be. If someone explains to you what the MonsterVerse is, you should say, okay, I'm expecting just stupid stuff. I'm expecting destruction and lives lost, and none of it matters within minutes. That's what this movie is. I'm not going to spoil much, but I think you should get an idea of what this movie is. So I'm just going to give like a brief synopsis of what happens. So this takes place after Godzilla versus Kong that happened a few years ago. That movie came directly to streaming. That was a pandemic movie. I believe I reviewed that one on the podcast. I believe I may just have to check it out and see. I can't really remember what I reviewed. It's been a while. But yes, this comes after Godzilla versus Kong, chronologically as well, and it is it's oh man, how do I explain this movie? This movie is for a particular audience. Everyone would not like it, but a lot of people will. I saw this movie twice in theaters, by the way. Let me just go ahead and start with that. So the first time I saw it was like a medium-sized theater, but people were still happy. There was even applause at the end of the movie on my first viewing. The second time I saw it, it was on a Friday night, and it was absolutely packed in there. I mean, seats were filled, and people were just in there clapping. They were cheering, throwing their fists up, yelling random words. It was awesome. There was the guy behind me, and whenever something would happen, plot-wise, he would be like, "Oh, no way." I laughed. I tried my best not to laugh out loud, but man, it was hard to keep my composure because I'm like, I've seen the movie already, so I know what's gonna happen. But seeing like their reactions as this is their first time watching this was great. It was just a good vibe overall watching this movie in theaters. Um, but yes, yeah. Let me get back to the movie. So Kong is in Hollow Earth, I believe is what it's called, but it's like Earth, but not Earth. It's like the middle of the center of the world, and he's alone. There are no more giant gorillas living in the world, but that turns out to not be the case. There are plenty of them, but he has not found them. They're in basically like a subterranean area. While he's trying to figure out the mystery of his people, Godzilla is above the world or above the surface, and he's basically wrecking stuff. Like he's going out, he's fighting giant crabs and uppercutting them, and he's just hibernating and trying to basically gain enough power to power up for something. And even the characters, like the human characters in the movie, they're even like, okay, he's doing something. He's getting all this radiation. He's powering up. He's getting ready for a fight, basically. And of course, they worked together in the last film to a certain extent to defeat the overall evil. But they're still, keeping a close eye on him while also not getting too close because they know what can happen from the other movies. Yeah, I believe this movie takes place 3 years after the last movie, the Godzilla vs. Kong movie. But yes, this movie is great. So let me get back to it. So eventually, Godzilla powers up, and I don't know if you've seen the trailer. You see that he has like pink spikes, and he's like has this pink aura about him, like he's a Dragon Ball character or something. But it's because of what he defeats, and he gains the power from. So things are happening, and they're like, "Hey, we need to get Kong to get Godzilla to come down here and fix all this stuff that's happening in Hollow Earth." And there's a fight that happens in Egypt, and I was just my eyes were glued on the screen because I was like, "This is so stupid," but I cannot look away. It's great. You get to see monsters get thrown into pyramids and punched in the face and dragged, and then the final battle is just another instance of, this is just pure destruction. This isn't going to matter at all within a few seconds or minutes or for that matter. It's a good time. It's an adrenaline rush, to say the least. And I mean, with the human characters, these are always my gripes when it comes to these movies. Godzilla Minus One did the human characters the best because of how that movie is structured. This film dumbs it down a lot. But I say they're a little bit better than how they were in Godzilla vs. Kong, which was the last movie, to where you kind of do care about these characters. You're like, okay, they're going somewhere. They have a mission to complete. Let's see if they can complete it. So you care just a little bit, but you really do not get that invested in these human characters. They are paper thin. They don't matter in the grand scheme of things. Almost nothing matters in the grand scheme of things, but this movie is a very fun watch. I give Godzilla Kong the New Empire an 8 out of 10. I'm gonna settle with an 8 out of 10. It's just enough fun, you know. It's nothing too crazy. It's nothing too. It's not boring at all or anything. I mean, it does have its slow moments, but it's always something stupid on the screen that like kind of diverts you away from it. Like, it's like, oh, it's slow right now, but in a minute we're gonna have a gorilla get a power glove to fight other things with, and it's just a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. This movie stars Rebecca Hall. If you care about the human characters, Rebecca Hall is in this. Brian Tyree Henry from Atlanta, Paperboy, if you know him. Dan Stevens, who is on a roll right now. I saw Abigail last week. I'm going to give a review on that later. But yeah, he's basically competing with himself in the box office right now, which is actually pretty funny. But yes, he was in Legion on FX also, which is another show that I need to finish. But yeah, the human characters don't matter. You want to see big monsters fight big monsters and destroy cities. That's it. And that's what this movie gives me for the most part. I just get to see destruction and fights. I do wish that the monsters had a little bit more to do in this movie, but it's perfectly understandable why, there just has to be the translation between the human characters and the giant monsters fighting each other to make a movie that is, almost 2 hours long. So there's that. But speaking of monkeys, I'll just stay on this topic. You may have seen the trailer recently with Dev Patel going through and he's fighting people. And you're like, okay, what is this movie? It looks good. He's wearing a black suit. This might be Indian John Wick. And I kind of regret to inform you that that's not really the case with Monkey Man, which is the film that stars Dev Patel and is also directed by him. He also did the screenplay. And I believe that Jordan Peele produced it. So what had happened was this movie was going to go to Netflix, I believe. Jordan Peele saw the movie and was wondering why it would go to streaming services. He thought that this movie should be seen in theaters. So his production company, Monkey Paw Productions, I think it is, or Monkey Paw Pictures, they picked the movie up and they released it in theaters, which I'm not mad at. The more movies that we get in theaters, the happier of a camper I will always be. So here we are. We have Monkey Man. The movie trailer looks literally like Indian John Wick, which caught a lot of eyes to begin with. Going into this movie, I kind of expected that. I believe that the trailer misled us in a certain type of way, which is understandable. These movie trailers are made to get eyes on them and to get seats filled in the theaters. So I get that they had to do what they had to do to basically promote this movie. But yes, this movie stars Dev Patel. He plays a character. I don't know if he has a name. Apparently his name is Kid, but also Monkey Man and Bobby. But he's a guy. He throws fights for a living. So he has like these almost like boxing matches, but they're just actual like brawls. And he throws the fights. He gets money. He also works as like a waiter or whatever. But there's things that happened in his past that the movie doesn't really tell you right away. You just have to figure it out as the movie goes on. Keeping spoilers light. How do I do this? Things happen in his past. It's basically a revenge flick. Someone passes away and he tries to get his and their revenge on what happened. So like Kill Bill kind of. If I'm talking a revenge flick, Kill Bill's the first one that comes to mind always. But in a sense, it's similar to that. But the way this movie is shot, technically, this movie is really, really impressive. The cinematography is great. There's CG in this movie, but there's not a lot. It's actually a pretty low budget film. So I think the budget for this film was $10 million. And which is not bad for Dev Patel's, debut film or debut directed film. But it takes a lot of different movies. It picks and chooses things, throws them into a pot, shakes them up, adds some Indian religion in there, and once you spit it out, this is what you get. You get Monkey Man. You get a movie that has some action scenes where he's fighting people. There are also some very tense recon missions, I guess you could say, where you see him go through certain areas. He's keeping his eyes on people, and he's still trying to come up with his plan as it's falling through. There are some, like I said, there are some pretty cool shots here. These shots are one in a few. So there's one example. There's a shot that happens in a club. It's like a club kind of party type scene. And the shot happens, and I'm like, okay, that's a really cool shot. And then it just kind of stays there. And I'm like, okay, let's keep going. Let's keep the movie going. Like the pace was going well. We slowed it down a little bit. Let's get back to it. And I think that might be one of my biggest issues with this film is that the pacing is not consistent. Things move very fast for a moment, and then they slow down to a screeching halt. And then things slowly pick up, they'll halt again, and then they'll pick back up. And then they'll slow down again, and then the movie's over. And it's just like, this movie, I feel like the trailer showed us a movie that it wanted to be, instead of the movie that it actually is. For example, this movie, I believe that this movie is too far into itself. And what I mean by that is it is basically a surface level film. This movie is almost, I think it's a little bit over 2 hours actually. Yeah, it's just over 2 hours long. You could shave off 20 to 25 minutes of this movie, and I think it would be better. And like I said, those shots were great. The action scenes are great. One of my other big issues with this film is that there's a lot of shaky cam usage in this. And I'm not a big shaky cam hater, but if you're using shaky cam and I can't see exactly what's happening in the action scene, that's where I have an issue. And that's what happens in this movie. There are some fight scenes that are taking place in certain locations. They're tight locations. And you'll see him, for example, he'll pick up something and he'll swing it at someone. Meanwhile, the camera's just doing all these gymnastics and you cannot see what's happening. And it's like, this would be so much better if they just put the camera on a dolly and let the action play for itself. Because apparently the action choreographer knows what he's doing, but it's hard to even tell that because of all the shaky cam that's happening. If I had to compare it to anything, I don't know if any of you all saw the Snake Eyes movie, the G.I. Joe movie from a few years ago. That movie has an absurd amount of shaky cam in it for it to be a G.I. Joe movie. This movie is similar to that. There's just a lot of shaky cam, and it reminds me of movies that came out in like the early 2010s or the late 2000s where they were all gritty. They were the action movies. They just had to have some kind of shaky cam. Like I said, that's okay to a certain extent. And I think this movie does a little bit too much when it comes down to it. Another issue I have with this film is that the ending is not satisfying. I got up after this movie and I was like, okay, I get the point, but I don't feel like that ending was sweet in any kind of way. And I feel like that's a problem that a lot of filmmakers are having right now. They don't know how to end a film. They have ideas, they put ideas in a pot, they cook it, we let them cook, and then by the end of the movie, they just say, okay, this happened, the end, roll credits. And it's like, you did not deserve that. There's not enough here for me to continue to care after seeing what you've just done. You've just mishandled this movie. I'm not gonna say this movie was badly mishandled or anything. I'm not gonna say that at all. I am just going to say that I wish that there was more to it. But overall, it's a good movie. I know it sounds like I don't like the movie. That's the weird thing about this film. I really enjoyed it, I really enjoyed this film. But I don't think that it's satisfying. And I feel like if this movie were to be satisfying, I could give it a higher score than what I'm about to give it. So with that being said, Monkey Man is going to get a solid 7 out of 10 from me. And like I said, I wanted to like this movie. I saw the trailer. I said, oh, this is cool. I love Dev Patel as an actor. So I was like, let's see what he can do behind the camera, as well as being in front of the camera. And then after hearing about, all the damage that he that happened to him while he was filming this movie, I think he broke ribs and he had injuries dealing with his hands and his back. I think he had back issues as well. And it's like he clearly put blood, sweat, and tears into this movie. I, I'm here for anybody that does that. But this movie just ends. You know, it's like a video game. I think, yeah, this is perfect. Imagine you play a video game for maybe 16 hours or so. It takes you a few weeks because you got a busy life. And, it has its moments. There are moments where things are going really well. You're enjoying the actual gameplay. Things look great. It's great graphically. But there are just moments where it just slows down and you're just walking through a forest or something. And then the ending happens and it's pretty predictable. You know what's going to happen. And then after the big moment happens, it just finishes. But at the same time, it's not really a big moment that happens. And I think, like I said, it's just frustrating. That's what makes this movie a 7 out of 10 for me. I really wanted to like it. The soundtrack at moments was great. There were a few songs where I was like, okay, I see what they're doing here. I like this. But yeah, I feel like the trailer really misled me with this film. Also, there were only like 3 people when I'm going to go see this movie, so I hope that it does better than what it's doing right now. As of right now, I do see that this movie has a box office total of $28.6 million, which is not bad considering that the movie costed $10 million to make. Maybe there could be a sequel. Maybe they could do something new. I don't know if I would want to see a sequel for this movie, just because of how unsatisfying the ending is. I think just leave it there, do something new, do something different. I'll be okay with that. So yes, that's my review for Monkey Man. I really wanted to like this film, but I just cannot go all the way there with it. Now, a movie that is an action movie that I did really enjoy. I got to see this one early, actually. I'm recording this episode on a Wednesday. I believe it will be released tomorrow, which is a Thursday. But I saw the trailer for this film, and I said, okay, I like Bill Skarsgård. I like people doing action things. I like what's his name? Andrew Koji, who is also in Snake Eyes, which is actually hilarious that I even referenced that movie in this episode. But yes, Boy Kills World. If you have not heard of it, it's an action flick. And that's the best way I can put it. Even better, it's an action flick that is literally a video game. Um, I get hints of like Streets of Rage, Sifu. There are just a lot of different games that that this movie reminds me of. It has a lot of gun fu, and the gun fu here is really satisfying. It's really cool to see, someone get uppercutted, they fall back. The main character like bends over, he has a shotgun, he shoots the shotgun behind his back, and then he like cocks the shotgun while it's still facing the other way. Oh, it's just pretty cool stuff. But I did not know. I just found out. This is news to me. I did not know this. But apparently this film is produced by Sam Raimi, which makes a lot of sense. This movie has a lot of Raimi-isms. And I'm not mad at that at all. That's actually great. But this film, it stars Bill Skarsgård, who you may know from the new It movies, It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. The weird looking guy who was also in Barbarian, which if you have not seen Barbarian yet, please do yourself a favor. But his character is a man who was once a boy who is now deaf and he's mute. He can't hear and he cannot speak. So he uses a voice that he heard in a video game, hence to the video game correlation between the two. The video game that he takes place was basically like a fighting game, and it was a voice that's like player 2 wins. But that voice is played by H. John Benjamin, who you may know from Bob's Burgers as well as Archer. Really kind of deep and goofy voice. If you hear him, you'll know him. But that's his inner voice. The guy, our main character, does not speak. So you just see him be trained by a man in the woods. and he's a shaman apparently, and he's teaching him like martial arts. He's teaching him how to shoot guns. Just basically, he's teaching him how to be a badass. At the end of the day, that's basically what he is. But the guy that who plays the shaman, his name is Yanyan Ruhian. I think that's how you pronounce it. Do not. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I have to give this man his flowers. I remember him. He was also in the Raid. He was in the Raid 2 as well. He was in Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Um, and I want to say that he was in. I just have to check. I'm sorry, but he's been in several movies. But he's an excellent martial artist. He's great in just about everything that I've seen him in. Oh yeah, he was in John Wick Chapter 3. That's what I remember from as well. But he's a how do I say this without messing anything up? But he's just a badass Asian guy in the woods. He has like long hair, he has like the long beard and everything. It reminded me of the guy from Kill Bill Volume 2. But yes, he's basically that character in this movie. And he is instructed. Well, he's not really instructed, but our main character, who is Boy, haha, we got two movies in this episode with the protagonist named Boy. So yes, Bill Skarsgård plays our character Boy, and he's instructed to kill the woman that killed his family. Um, so it's basically just like I said, it's a video game. This movie even has a scene where the guy is going through a building and he's going up different levels, almost like Streets of Rage, which I can never be mad at. But the woman that he wants to kill is played by Femke Janssen. If you've seen the X-Men movie, she was Jean Grey in those movies. And like I said, this movie also stars Andrew Koji, who plays a guy named Basho, who is he's an escapee. He got captured. He sees Boy. He says, "Hey, I can help you get to your mission. I know what you want to do. Free me, and I'll be your best friend, and we'll get through this." Basho also has another guy on his team. They're like the Resistance. His name is Benny, who's played by Isaiah Mustafa, who you may know from the Old Spice commercials. You know, he's always like riding a Pegasus or something. The ones that don't have Terry Crews in them. The other black guy from those movies. But he was also in It Chapter 2, which was also pretty funny. But it's just you have this colorful cast of characters. This movie is colorful. Colorful. I mean, our main character he just wears a vest and some like ripped pants. That's all he wears. That's his outfit. But this movie it's funny. I did not expect it to be as funny as it was. It's genuinely funny on top of that. There are moments where something happens or someone says something and I'm like, did they say that? The movie confirms it, and then they'll throw a visual gag at it at the same time. And it's like, okay, I see what kind of movie this is. This movie is going to be stupid. I'm here for the stupidity. I'm all the way here for it. But like I said, when it comes to the action scenes in this film, it does them fantastically. They're the chef's kiss on top of everything else that this movie does right. The villains, you really grow to dislike the villains, which is also great. They don't try to humanize them. They tried at one moment, it didn't work. But these villains they're just terrible people. They just go to these different cities and they just murder people. They murder innocent people. So it's like easy to see that these people suck, you know? And it's to the point where it's just like, hey, you know, whatever happens in them is just gonna happen. I'll be okay with it at the end of the day. But yes, this film is great. If you do see this film, just sit back and enjoy it. That's the best thing I can say about it. Just go to this movie and just watch it. If you're a fan of action films, just watch this film. I haven't seen much be done as far as promotion outside of the trailers that I've seen. But it's kind of weird that the movie is releasing tomorrow, and it's just like they aren't really forcing it as a lot of other studios do. For example, when Dune 2, which I do want to do a Dune 2 review eventually, but when that film was being released, you could not escape that trailer. You couldn't. You couldn't escape people just talking about Dune, or an HBO Max trailer that shows Dune and says, "Get ready for Dune Chapter 2." You couldn't escape it. But they just have not promoted this movie. So I guess I'll do my part and promote it. Go and see Boy Kills World. It's releasing on April 26th. These movies come out a day early anyway, so basically April 25th. Go and see Boy Kills World. That's all I have to say. this movie gets a solid 8 out of 10 for me. I enjoyed this movie. It's a good sit back, turn your brain off, just watch greatness. It's bloody. It's violent. This movie has a really funny scene towards the beginning. It's a fight scene. And I laughed. I'll just go ahead and I light spoilers, okay? Light spoilers. There's a fight scene where he's fighting a guy, and he hits him, and it's a funny hit. Like the way that the guy reacts is hilarious. I was like, okay, that was funny. How are they gonna keep playing into this? That same guy gets up randomly, and Basho is like, hey, that guy, he's a weird one. You have to do a little bit more to him. They fight again, and you hear the voice, round 2, fight. And then they fight again. And our protagonist boy, he wins that fight. What do you know? This guy's getting up yet again. Round 3, they fight again. And the way that it ends is just like, yeah, that guy's not coming back. He's not going to be in Boy Kills World 2, if there is even one. And it's just comedy. And it does comedy well. And I'm not mad at a movie that ever does comedy well, especially an action flick. You know, I feel like this movie's main focus is the action, but the comedy is really where it hits for me. It hits a really good sweet spot. And like I said, it has its Sam Raimi-isms. I'm totally okay with that. Go and see this movie. Go and see it. It's an 8 out of 10 from me. But yes, that was 3 movies. 3. I think I like that kind of happy medium of doing 3 reviews, and then, like I said, I still want to figure out what I want to do with this podcast. I'm not gonna say that I'm not satisfied with it, but I feel like there's just a lot more that I want to do with it. You know, either with bringing in guests or just adding additional segments. I need to actually just sit down one day, lay everything out, plan it properly, and figure out what I want to do with this. But yes, once again, I know I kind of rambled at moments during this, but I appreciate each and every last one of you for tuning in and listening. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did coming here and recording it for you all. And once again, for everyone that's been asking for the episodes and asking where they've been, where I've been, I appreciate it all. Like I said, just things in the background have just been changing. Life has been changing. Things are just happening. I guess that's the best way that I could put it. I feel like with content, right? I'm never one to get discouraged, but there are just moments where I was like, okay, let's see. I just have dry spells where I'm like, okay, I really want to do this. Can I find the time? If I have the time, it's like, okay, I might have to put that time towards something else. And it's just, I'm in a weird spot a lot of times when it comes to content. I really want to do it. I really do. But it's just, like I said, I just have to really sit down and figure out exactly how I'm going to go about doing it. So for each and every last one of you, I just once again want to say thank you for listening and sticking with me and being here along the ride with me. I appreciate it. I truly do. I'm grateful for each and every last one of you. But I believe that's what we're going to leave it at here. I do want to come back soon. Maybe I can talk to you later about a few extra things as well. I'm just happy to be back in this, area and record this for you all. Also, if you're a visual watcher, you may have noticed the background, which wasn't on the last episode of the Dom Trap, but it has been in the episodes of Run It Back that I've been doing. Just got a new background. So I hope you enjoy it. Hopefully, we can just get bigger and better as time goes on. And just like always, don't forget to share the podcast. Just tell people to come listen if they like movies. They want to hear me talk about movies, so and so forth. It's just something that I'm passionate about. I love film. I love talking about film. I get super excited about this stuff. So it's a good stress reliever at the same time. So I just appreciate everyone. Thank you all. We'll leave it there. Oh my gosh, I just realized I did not introduce this podcast. But yes, I'm your host. You already know who I am. It's behind me now at this point. I maybe don't even have to introduce myself like that. But yes, as always, it has been me. My name is Dominique, also known as Dom, also known as Damo, Chef Damo, wherever you want to call me, wherever you are. I'm your host, your producer, your editor, your DJ, your music man, all that good stuff. Once again, thank you for tuning in. And as always, it's been me, your first, your last, and your everything. And I'll see y'all later. Peace.